Okay, now we're going to start with hole number 2 again. All right, we had a little issue right before we did this one to where we've already drilled the hole. The battery ended up dying. Sorry about that, but I'm going to go through the steps, each step that it actually took to get this done right now. So hole number 2 is actually a stepped hole. If you notice, we have a 1/4 inch 60-degree point angle, okay, that is going to go all the way through. There's no depth value, so all the way through. Then we're going to go 17/64 with an 118-degree point angle down to 0.400. Now, remember, with a point angle of 118 and I got to go down that far, that means I need to know how tall that point is and add that to the end. Because again, I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to touch off on the very point, but obviously there is a distance from the very point to where the flat is. So I've done that calculation. There's a video on that, but I'm going to add that 400 plus the 079 after I touch off here to make sure that I go down deep enough. All right, and then after that, I'm going to go ahead and thread it to a 5/16 20, and then we're going to put that helicoil in another video. All right, so let's go ahead and get set up. Now, first of all, we're going to go ahead and drill with a center drill. Now, you guys already know this process here, and again, since the hole's there, it doesn't make sense for you, but we're going to drill down to the point where the taper is to accept the point of this drill. So that's already done right there. But let's go ahead and grab this 1/4 inch 60-degree and put it up in there and go through the process with that. So I'm going to set you down here so that I can get this going a little bit better. All right, so we're going to tighten that up. We're going to pretend that our center drill hole is already in there. We're going to check out our DRO over here, and if you see, X is at 0.562, and if we're over here, we're at 0.562, and then we have 1.625, and we are down by 1.625. Okay, so we're in location. We're going to make sure that we're dialed in for our RPM. I've already done that. We're going to turn this thing on, and we're going to drill down all the way through the hole. Okay, so we've gotten this all the way through. Again, I recognize that the hole is already there, but I'm going through the process anyway. So now let's do a tool change. Let's go to the second tool, and that is going to be our 17/64, which is a 0.265. I've already done the calculation for that as well. We're going to set this one up here, put the brake on, tighten that up. But now what we're going to do is we're going to back this up, and we're going to touch this thing off, okay? And then we're going to set the height. Remember, if we want an accurate depth, with right here we have an accurate depth of 0.4, we're going to have to touch this tip off, and then we're going to use the knee to help us get to the exact depth. So what we're going to do quickly is I'm going to crack this loose, and I'm going to bring it over to 0. And again, this is really difficult to do when I only have one hand. So we're going to set it 0 now, so we're good there. Then what I'm going to do is bring this down until it just touches the tool, and I'm going to lock that in. Remember, we're going to take our stop here, take it right up against the quill hammer, and make sure it's nice and tight. And at this point, we got to get this drill out of the way, and then we can very quickly go over here, and we're going to go 100, 200, 300, 400, just like this says, 400, but remember I got my point, so I got to go another 79 thousandths, and we're going to roll right around here to 79 thousandths. Okay, so very quickly, when we go back up here and look, I'm going to touch here, and look, I have a gap, and you'll never guess what that is, 479 thousandths. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to go back to our 1.625, 1.625. All right, and we're going to turn it on and get down right to depth. All right, so now that we're the depth on this, okay, and again, I recognize the hole was already in there, little camera malfunction before, but now we can go to the next step, okay, and that is going to be tapping. So what I'm going to do is I know I'm going to need a little extra room, so we're going to go ahead and lower this down. And we may have to do some more. We're going to take our drill bit out here, and then we're going to find our tap. Now our tap, okay, happens to be a 5/16 20, and the reason it's a 5/16 20 is because it's going to be for a 1/4 20 helicoil. Now you're going to get the chance to see this shortly. So remember the last hole that we tapped here, we had a nice little tool, a spring-loaded tool, to help us use the location of the mill to make sure that this tap is sitting straight up and down. So this tap handle's a little bigger. Obviously we have to roll this down, and we're going to stop here, bring the quill down and load that spring. Make sure that you guys can see that spring being loaded there. And we're going to lock that in place, and now we can start cutting. So we're going to be mindful of the amount of torque that we're using here, because remember, this is a step hole. We definitely don't want to make it all the way through and cause our thread to be too deep. This is extending, so we're going to bring that down some more. All right, I'm starting to get a little tighter here, which is going to indicate that I have reached the point in my hole to where it's just 1/4 inch and not the 15/64. So since that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and start backing this out. Now, remember that this tap that I have here is either a plug taper on the end, or it's an actual taper tap. Okay, so in other words, there's going to be maybe anywhere from 4 to 7 threads that are going to be partially formed. Okay, again, we have the taper here, so not all of the threads are formed fully. So we're going to pull this out and find our bottoming tap. Okay? So we have our bottoming tap, and then we have our taper tap, and you can see the threads are already formed down there. This won't start a thread, it will finish one though. So we're going to set that off to the side. We're going to load this in here, and we're going to go back to the very same process that we employed before, using our little center device here. Now this should crank in reasonably easy, okay, all the way to the point. Now I can start feeling some tension, and that's where the threads were not fully formed. So I'm going to work this down in a fashion that I'm breaking the chip off, okay, and I'm going to keep working that down until I can feel that torque increase. Breaking the chip along the way. All right, make sure I'm noticing how much tension that I'm putting on this. If I put too much, okay, then obviously I could do some damage to either the part or to the actual tap. I'm gonna bring this down a little bit more. Okay. All right, so at this point, I'm going to take this up and pull it out of the hole. Okay, so now I got that nice tapped hole. All right, so that's it for this hole until we do the heel.